has a conflict today. So we do have a quorum.
All right, very good. Then are we ready to begin?
We are.
All right, well then let the minutes show that Jim Beisman and Frank Geltner are present, and Claire has been excused, and we're going to dispense with the reading of the minutes. We've looked at them and commented, and so we can go on to OSU Extension 4-H Update Fair Event. Is this, can somebody move the agenda up so that we can read more of it? Thank you. Okay.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and I'll do my update in a little bit of a reverse order because I think it makes a bit more sense today that way. We're still planning on the fair. All indications are the public, the people, the vendors, the entertainers want it. Heather says that the vendor rolls are filling up. We're getting good positive feedback. I've been in contact with the rodeo. They are looking at a schedule, but certainly anxious to get it on the books. And I'm feeling good about the organizational side of things. The one unknown in the fair world is what will Oregon Health Authority and the governor's office do to us to limit participation, or what will the COVID standard of the day be? And there's just no way to know that. So we're looking at it as if it'll be wide open and we can just have a fair again, with full recognition that we may have to go to Plan B or Plan C and figure out ways to limit participation and downsize it to meet the standard, whatever that may be. The one really, I don't see any big issue with that whatsoever, other than the rodeo. We always need that gate fee to make ends meet with the rodeo. And if we're limited to only seating 300 people or 250 people, it may require that we subsidize the rodeo this year. But if you remember last year, we sort of had that same concern in our planning, and the Fair Board graciously said, the event is worth it, the rodeo was worth it, and if we need to subsidize it for a year, we can make that work. I hope that will be the Fair Board's decision again, and that we won't have to cancel if we're not able to get the participation. And that's certainly up to you guys, and discuss that and figure out what you want to do there. But we will, when we write the contract this year, we will put in a force majeure, as we have previously, that lets us get out if we have to fail. My guess would be, if we have to limit participation to say 250 or 300 people in the stands, it may be that we would have a $7,000 loss in revenue that we would have to make up. And it may be that part of that can be made up in other ways. We always run a bit of a surplus in the vendor space that we rent and that sort of thing. So I don't think we realize a full $7,000 or maybe even $8,000 loss, but that would be the impact to revenue, and would probably put that fair somewhere around net neutral to maybe a $3,000 to $5,000 loss, depending on where it all shakes out. But hopefully, as we get closer, I'll have a little better information there. I'll entertain questions about the fair update, and then go on to the 4-H update. It's got some good stuff too. But any questions about fair while we're here?
Not questions, Todd. This is Wayne.
Yeah.
But just to support what you're saying in here, and actually, as we get later into the meeting, we'll talk about the budget. And I have projected a full fair event there, and I have, for purposes of projecting for the budget, looked at the revenue side as though we can actually receive that. I will tell you, when we get to that, there are options. If we have to subsidize it this year, this is actually a good year to be able to do it. I think you'd have the sufficient funds to be able to do that if necessary. The other element of this, just in terms of the overall uncertainty of the situation out there, I think it's a good idea for us to start our discussions with our own local public health authority. They obviously are continuing to utilize and will utilize likely up until the fair time, the exhibition space out there for continued work on COVID. I wish I could pull out the magic 8 ball and throw it and say, yes, we'll be done with vaccinations by July. I don't know. But I think there is a real distinct possibility, especially because of the dates of the fair in here, that we can work it out, that even if there still are vaccination clinics going on, we can block out that period of time for the fair, hold the fair, and they can schedule vaccines on either side of that. And so I think that's very imminently doable as long as we start planning ahead. And so I think that's another aspect that we'll have to start working on with our folks locally here. So that was just the two elements I wanted to touch on right now, and then we can talk about it more when we get to the budget.
Yeah, and we're certainly prepared with the freeing up of the space at the thrift store location and the Hardy building and the 4-H update that I'll go into. Even if we had to run those concurrently, I think we certainly could. I think there will be enough room that we can plan and make that happen if we feel it's a better choice to not interrupt vaccinations and just do it concurrently with the fair in a location that doesn't impact the fair or interact too heavily with the fair. So we'll certainly keep those on the radar and hope for the best on all accounts there. Switching gears quickly to 4-H, we have not reopened, although now that we're in the lower risk category, we're able to. I purposely have been dragging my feet just a little bit because when I thought we were ready to reopen in November and I got volunteers all revved up to do it, we got the rug pulled out from under us. So with this reopening, I'm taking it slow and steady, and probably this coming week I will have a meeting with our volunteers. We are making concessions to allow late entries into the 4-H world. I am certain that we will have some 4-H participation, both in the animal side and in the static exhibit side. I think it will be smaller than normal just because of the very, very late start to the year. But I am anticipating that we will still have some type of 4-H participation as well. I know we've got a number of volunteers that are anxious and a number of kids that are anxious and pull it off. So probably by next fair board meeting next month, 4-H will be reopened, and we will we'll have some maybe preliminary numbers.
All right, very good. So is that the end of your report, Todd?
That is all I have, Frank. And if I'm not needed in the budget discussion, which I don't feel or think that I am, unless you tell me different, I will excuse myself and go back to my family vacation.
Okay, I just want to let everyone know, because Todd and I talked about this already, that I was contacted by Bud Shoemake from the Wooden Boat Society asking if we were going to have a fair this year, and I told him we were, and that's all. I just wanted to share that information. So let's go on.
Thank you, Frank.
All right, Todd, you take care. We're going to go on with the next item on the agenda.
I'm sorry. Thanks, Todd. But I see that Renee is here, and maybe we could use this particular slot here to talk about the agreement we're putting together on the community garden.
Okay.
So if you don't mind, I'll just step in. And I apologize first up front that I did not finalize the agreement. I know we've got a draft we're looking at here. I need to change some of the terms in it. The way it was presented by Extension itself, by OSU, was as a direct lease and exclusive use and any use of that piece of property. And that's not what we really had in mind. And so I'm changing it around to reflect the fact. I think the general terms there are fine, and I'll fix that up and get that together. But what I'm looking at is a use agreement, not a lease. We're not leasing the property. We're not giving them exclusive rights. They have the use of the property. We have some timeframes we'll attach to it, some other conditions, and it's for the purposes of a master garden and ancillary kinds of uses related to that. And that's fine. The one provision that's not in here that I will add in, though, is we've got to be really clear that everybody understands that we're looking at redevelopment of this particular property. And that at some point there may be a necessity to either limit access for a period of time or to actually look at potentially terminating the agreement for a period of time as they do the redevelopment activities, because there may be a conflict when you're out there with a lot of heavy equipment and having people coming in. I don't know. I think the initial term that runs into March 2022 gets you through this entire summer. That's not going to be a problem. We're not going to be doing anything in that corner of the property that I anticipate in that time frame there, and then we can extend it beyond that, and we can look at the possibility of making it a permanent part of the redevelopment once it's done. Is actually have that space, but I think we need to have that flexibility and recognition that there will be, potentially disruptions of that in that particular area as we do redevelopment. So I'm just making sure everybody recognizes that, and we have terms to deal with that.
Do you need anything from the board on this today?
Well, I was going to ask Renee, you're ready to go out there right now, aren't you? It's springtime.
Yeah, we really are. We've been ready, and this was kind of that. I was under the impression that at that February meeting that Todd was going to have the map and all of this stuff prepared. So, I understand.
It is here, and I apologize, Renee. It's here. It's just in fact, I'm ready to have the board authorize the fair board go ahead and authorize an agreement, just incorporating the terms and get you started on it. So as far as I'm concerned, you can go to that particular area. We've identified the area. I like the general terms that are being proposed here. It's just some of the language we need to work around. It's a little bit different than what I envisioned. And I apologize. I just started looking at this today in preparation for the meeting, and I didn't realize it was actually crafted as a lease. And that's not what we were talking about.
I'll be honest, I didn't realize it was crafted as a lease either. So I've been trying to get an updated version from the leasing contract specialist. He was hoping to have it to me last Thursday. And when he sent it to me yesterday, I was like, I just got to get, he was like, well, I said, I just got to get it so people know what it looks like right now.
Yeah. And generally there's a lot of terms in here I like. And so we can work with this. We can work with some of the scope of this in terms of the general language. I like it. It's just we need to kind of change and I think we can work with it. If you wanted to authorize, let them go ahead this month subject to finalization of this particular agreement, that's fine with me. So we don't have to wait for another meeting to get it going.
Jim?
I'm okay with that, with the, basically, if you will, the conditions or whatever you want to call them that Wayne has laid out. And if that works for master gardeners and so forth, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I think you're asking us to simply approve in principle what our discussion just had.
Yes. And then subject to final review and then signature by the chair. And we can do your remote signature, Frank. That's not a problem. We can take care of that. And you can go out there, as far as I'm concerned, Renee, based on this agreement, you can get out there and start doing preliminary work and anything you need to do to get going out there.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, I know that we need flexibility. That was also why I thought maybe a 1-year term would be easiest, because I figured in a year that might be the time where we really need to start looking at the bigger picture in terms of where you're at with development.
Yeah.
All right. So I think Jim and I are in agreement with you to go forward. Do you want anything from us in a formal way?
Just maybe a quick motion to approve the arrangement as described.
Also moved.
All right, it's been moved and seconded with me, and therefore we'll take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passes.
Thank you very much. We're really excited.
Thanks, Renee.
Thank you, Brittany. All right, you have a good one. All right.
As well. Bye.
Okay. Bye. All right, Wayne, let's go on with the agenda.
The Echo Mountain Complex fire and COVID, and I'm going to tie that in a little bit to the budget because you'll see it reflected in the budget, and that is that again the Commons has been really ground zero for our response to both, as you are aware, from the Echo Mountain Fire Complex fire, for response and recovery activities, and now is front and center again on our response to COVID. There's been a number of clinics that have been run through the property. There's been testing events that were drive-through testing events on another portion of the property. It really reinforced the kind of multi-purpose, multi-use of that particular property, and how important that is in our overall plans for both for redevelopment, but what it'll look like in the future. And I actually had a conversation with the city council and the mayor from Newport. We had our joint meeting last week, and we talked about that and reflected on the fact that it's just another element of the overall usefulness of what we're doing with the redevelopment plan there. So the thing that's I wanted to make sure people are aware of, and it's reflected again in the budget, is that while we're doing this in terms of what responses we have to do, I'm hoping we don't just do this completely gratis. I am actually searching out funding in both the FEMA world and in the COVID world, because sometimes those two overlap, sometimes they do not, in terms of providing some funding. And I think that the way I'm searching for this is to provide funding both for the general operation of the commons, but also for the fair, because we actually had to forego an event last year, and any of the activities here that were associated that would have had been fundraising for the fair over the course of the year, just because of everything that's gone on. So I am continuing to search for ways to bring some money back into the Commons Fund and the Fair Fund for the utilization of the property during the course of the last year. I'm not going to make any promises and guarantees because it's so convoluted and complicated, but at least we're exploring that. So when you see the budget, when we come up on the budget there, it can only be better than what I'm showing. And that is that we actually get some of those funds and basically reimburse the Fair Fund and the Commons Fund for the activities that have occurred in the last year. So I just wanted to give you that update. I wish I could tell you again when this is all going to cease. I don't have a good enough feel for when vaccinations will complete, at least the first round of vaccinations, because there may be more in the future. When that will be complete, I don't really have a good feel. It all is so dependent upon the supply and the amounts that we get in the course of the next couple of months. But you can, if you're interested, you can access the county website, which has all the information on when events occur, how many vaccines have been provided, how many are scheduled in the near future. All that information is available on the county website. So we'll continue to monitor and keep you up to date.
All right. On to the budget, county staff update.
I don't know if, Christy, you can make me the presenter, or maybe you've got the budget. Maybe you can just bring it up. I've got it sitting here. If you make me the presenter, I can actually present.
I have it in front of me too.
I just want to get it on the screen.
The only thing I did want to mention, Wayne, is the third line. We're still using the word fairgrounds.
I will get that changed. That's not my choice. That is a choice that comes because they have to show historical, and it's not. I'll change that. I'll get that changed. I don't make that decision. I don't make that choice of what year terms they use, but I can get it changed through the appropriate department. So I will get that changed.
Okay.
All right. Hopefully, am I now a presenter?
Yes. Yes.
This is always so much fun.
I have it pulled up.
Why don't you bring it up, Christy? Because it's again doing that blue circle.
Sure, I'll pull
I
it
should
up right now.
set this up early. It takes some time it's like an engine has to warm up or something. It's like, I don't understand it. It just circles blue and blue and blue. Yeah, why don't you bring it up?
Okay. All right.
Very good. Thank you. And you'll notice just the first thing on the revenue side, and then remember we divide the budget into two sides. One is the operational side for the commons itself, and then the fair event. And I can tell you this from the get-go, both of those have pretty healthy beginning balances. And in part, that's due to we were making some operational changes. We have a contract that we're doing, so we transfer money to get the extension to do the fair event. And we actually got revenues last year, including the video lottery. They did not withhold that, even though there was no event. So we actually got some revenues, and then we're able to carry those forward because there was no event last year and didn't have the expenses associated with the event. So we got some pretty healthy beginning balances in both of those funds, and we're projecting again continuation of those particular efforts for the next year. And everything we have heard at this point is that the video lottery will, although I put in amounts equivalent to what we received last year, there is some question, obviously, because of the pandemic, whether or not, and the closure of a number of the businesses that actually have the video lottery, whether those numbers will be the same. But at this point, they're not telling us to do anything any differently, and we'll adjust those in the final budget. If likely what they'll do is adjust down if they do some way. But again, because of our healthy beginning balances, I'm not too concerned about the next year in terms of where we go. And I left a placeholder for any of the COVID wildfire funds that we do get. And the other thing is the timing of when we get those. We may be working on those. They're not going to come this fiscal year, I do not think at all, but they would come sometime in the next fiscal year. But we got a placeholder for those. You want to scroll down a little bit?
We're going to get something from FEMA or somebody like that on the wildfire?
I have not been really, I've tried. I actually put in a request for money on the FEMA side, and Jim, you're very familiar with how they look at things in category A through E, what their things. But trying to pigeonhole that particular thing, they were not really very supportive of us saying that we could get anything on the wildfire side, which really surprised me. But I'm still pressing it and trying to do it. I'm actually more likely to get some money on the COVID side. And we've utilized quite a few days and quite a few activities to deal with COVID. So if we get, I think we might be able to access some money on that side of the equation. And if so, then that could be a good chunk of money, let's put it that way.
Who would provide the COVID money?
Well, it's money that comes to the county. It comes actually, and what it has to do is it has to be a qualifying expense.
Well, is it FEMA money or something else? Or
no, it's separate. This is where it gets complicated. There is, because it's a declared emergency, there is FEMA money on the COVID side of the equation. But remember, there was separate money, separate from the FEMA allocations for response, were what they called the CARES Act.
Right.
That's some money that actually comes through the state and then to the counties. And now the latest round of COVID money, which includes for expenses and things we've done, is the act that was just approved by Congress yesterday and is on the president's desk. There may be some money within that particular pot to basically deal with some of the expenses that we have incurred, some of the things with the revenues that we have foregone by all the activities we've done on the site that might be available. So it's really there's a whole different set of funding on the COVID side beyond FEMA, but there is FEMA money also.
Can I make the assumption that, given the timing of everything, that the FEMA people with respect to the wildfire have been here and you've had conversations with them and have some idea of what you've got there?
I can tell you this, I discussed with them and I put in a request in, I can't even remember which category, but they were very, pretty upfront with saying that's not likely to be funded.
Okay, but
on the wildfire side.
It's also safe to say that it's too early for you to have had any conversations with FEMA or anybody else with respect to COVID funds.
Well, we have dealt with some of the FEMA funds on the COVID side, but again, I'm looking there's much more, I think it's a broader array of reimbursable expenses on the non-FEMA COVID side, CARES Act, the American Rescue Plan, those kinds of things that deal with COVID.
But my point is, it's just too early to make any kind of.
It's way too early to do that. So that's why I did not want to plug any numbers in there because I have no idea. One, that, I'm arguing that we're eligible for it for the fair, but two, I don't know how much we're eligible for. So we'll be working on it.
Okay, let's make the assumption that at some point after July 1, somebody comes through with either COVID or wildfire money. Are we gonna have to do a supplemental budget, Wayne,
No.
or are we gonna be able to just plug it in?
No, I've actually planned this budget. And actually, I wouldn't plug it in at all. I would go to your reserves at this point. I have planned this budget anticipating there is no additional revenue. So any revenue would come in would basically go into the carryover that you do for the next year.
For the next year.
On the following,
Okay,
and it could be
Okay.
appropriate at that time. So I've actually devised this budget without any of that revenue.
so the budget that you've got in front of us is projected to
Right.
go with no COVID or wildfire money.
Right.
Like I say, if we get any of that, it'll just go into carryover for future years. But the budget that you've presented to us without any of that money is good, right?
Yep.
You understand my question?
I do, and it's that is correct. Now, the one thing I
Okay.
will say on the fair side of the equation, and that's where, can you go down to the fair event, Christy? Scroll down a little bit more. That's good, pretty good right there, actually. Go up one little bit. Perfect, right there. So the fair event. What I have, if you'll notice on the right-hand side, the very far right-hand side is also the revenue. So I have, again, I've anticipated and budgeted for a full fair event. And included their, revenue on that side of the equation. But we have a very good, healthy beginning balance. And what's good about planning it this way and budgeting this way is if for some reason we don't have this fair event or something smaller, you may see a reduction in the revenues on the right-hand side at the top, but you're also going to see a reduction in the costs down below, which is what we experienced this year. So you're not going to, it'll be a concomitant reduction in revenue and costs overall for this particular budget. So.
Okay, so let me ask my key question, which is, Todd talked about we may have to eat some money, with rodeo or some things like that. Can I safely assume that we have enough in the budget to cover what Todd is talking about, should that become the eventuality?
Absolutely.
Okay. That's what I really wanted to know. Thank you.
Yeah. So you don't need to take any specific action on this budget now. We'll be refining it in April and May towards formal adoption in June. But I wanted to give you the first take on this and take a look at it. And if you got any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. But this gives you a look at, and I'm actually pretty pleased when I looked at this to start off with. And I knew this was going to happen to some extent because we were getting some of these revenues that we do get coming in, and we weren't incurring some of the expenses. So
When are you going to present this to the budget committee?
Well, remember, this is a different animal in terms of, it does go to the budget committee. I got to remember this from solid waste. This one does go to the budget committee. But that doesn't go until, we don't have the budget meetings until May. So we've got another month. We can come back.
Okay.
Yeah. I just wanted to get it to you early on. And then we can come back and any fiddling we need to do with it in April, we can do that.
Okay, so we got at least one more meeting to go.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. All right, good. Thank you.
Okay. And then that's
All
it
right.
for the budget update.
Anything else on the county staff update?
Yeah, good morning, it's Amy. Couple of things. Renee and I had spoken about wanting fencing around their garden area, and I spoke with Jack and he agreed. So we just need Fair Board's approval to go ahead and do fencing around their garden area. And then we also have Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation is requesting to use the stage and the grass in front of the stage, either the last weekend in July or the first weekend in August.
Okay, first things first, I think the fencing around the garden area, that's probably covered by what we did a few minutes ago. Wayne, Frank, you guys agree?
I do. But the one
Yeah.
question, Amy, did they talk about who pays for it?
Renee believes that it's going to fall under some of the grant monies that she received, that she'll be allowed to use that, but she is verifying it.
Okay, so are
I
they
do think it's a good idea, 'cause
install the
if we
fencing?
have, I'm sorry.
Are they expecting Jack and his crew to install the fencing? Are they just getting the, guess
It kind of, mostly right now, they were just making sure they had permission to even put the fence up. We haven't gotten as far as to who's gonna do it yet.
okay. I don't
Well, the
see
rest
that
of
as a
you-
problem.
The rest of you, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've been working under the assumption that whatever they did down there in that corner, they were going to bear the expense of that unless they specifically came to us and asked us to approve an expenditure, and we have not done that. So it's my belief that whatever they do, fencing or otherwise down there, is on them.
Yeah.
Am I
No,
misreading?
I agree with that.
I agree too.
That's correct, isn't it, Wayne?
Yes.
I mean, I haven't had a
I'll
chance
make
to look.
sure the agreement, it has the appropriate language now that we know that. We can actually call that one out specifically, but then add, similar kinds of things.
Well, I haven't had a chance to look at that agreement, so I don't even know what's in it, but I think we've been working under the assumption that whatever costs were involved in their operation, they would bear.
Yes.
Okay,
Right, and I think by extension, any improvements that they make, we're not liable if suddenly we have to take over that space.
That's the general language I'm crafting, exactly.
well, yeah, and I think that maybe not was specifically stated, but was certainly implied by the earlier conversation, which is they've got permission to go ahead and go down there and do that, but if we have to kick them out, let's say, for a while we do the redevelopment or something, sorry, but again, that's on them. We're not
Yeah.
picking up any of those costs.
And I would assume probably the discussion hasn't gotten this far, but the kind of fencing they put up, it's not something that it would be really kind of more like temporary fencing, so anchored with, cement blocks or something like that, rather than big, huge dug post holes and that kind of stuff.
Well, I don't know that we necessarily really care, Wayne, just as long as they understand that
Sure.
they bear the cost and it's an at-risk on their part kind of thing. If we have to come in a year and tell them, well, you got to remove this fence, no matter how they construct it, because of the redevelopment, that's their issue. You with me?
I think the idea is that we don't have animals actually accidentally going into their garden and ruining it. So I honestly think that cattle panels will probably work
Okay.
fine.
Again, I don't really care how they fence it, just as long as they do so with the understanding that it's on them.
Got it.
Okay. And what about are we supposed to do anything about your second announcement, Amy?
Well, I mean, it's up to you guys. You have to decide whether you want to, because we're really not doing private events and haven't for quite some time.
Yeah,
But Rocky Mountain Elk is one that we have done in the past. And so they approached me about it and I said I would bring it to you guys and see what you have to say.
Are they going to be able to do this and comply with the guidelines, the CDC, the COVID guidelines? You know,
I guess
Well, they
what I would
have
suggest is that's the way you do it, is you can grant them permission as long as it complies with state guidelines, state and
well, I
CDC
think that
guidelines.
certainly has to be the case, but I'm wondering whether or not, from Amy, do they understand that that's the deal?
Well, I will let them know that they can use the space on that condition.
Okay, maybe that should just be the motion, Jim. You want to make it?
Yeah, I'll make it, that they can use the space, but it has to be in compliance with whatever the guidelines are with respect to the virus at the time they hold the event. I don't know how else to phrase it, because, I don't know what the guidelines are going to be when that date comes.
All right, and I agree with Jim. I think we have a motion there. Anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Anything else on the county staff update?
That's it for me. Thanks.
Okay, Amy, you know, they understand again, like the garden folks, that this is, on them, their risk and so forth and so on. If it has to be canceled or something because of the virus or whatever it is, you know, same sorts of conditions.
I can just edit the current rental agreement to show CDC guidelines, and also, you know, they can initial a spot understanding that should things change with COVID, we can bump them.
Yeah, we can, you know, the guidelines change or something, we have to cancel them out. There's no claim against us.
We'll just refund them. Wayne, I'll send you a copy of the changes I make.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have any problem if we have to cancel them with refunding their fee, but other than that, I mean, I don't want to take on any liability for their event in the eventuality something like this should happen.
Got it.
All right.
Okay?
All right. Anything else, Wayne?
Nope, and I need to go to another meeting, so this is great. Good timing.
Wayne, hang on just a second. Christie, I sent you a note on the minutes about, it seems to me like the minutes ought to reflect that we're doing these meetings electronically, and that if anybody wants a copy or wants to see the specifics, you know, that the Wayne, I assume the board, like this recording, you're keeping those for posterity if anybody wants to
They
you know,
sit
see
out
what
on the
actually
county
happened, what
YouTube
was
page.
actually said.
Wanna go look at them? Yes, they sit on the county YouTube page for anybody that wants to go look at them.
Right, but I think that the minutes ought to reflect, you know, at the header or at the beginning that if we do a distance meeting like this, that's the case, and anybody who wants to see any of the specifics needs to see the boards to look at the tape or something.
Sure.
You get what I'm talking about, because the different minutes don't actually reflect that we did a distance meeting.
Yes, I can make a
Corporate.
change.
Christie, can you make that change?
Yes, I will. I will make that change.
Okay.
All right. We'll see everybody on Thursday, April 8th. I assume that's a Thursday.
It is.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Very good. Have a good day, everybody.
All right, thank you.
We
Bye.
are adjourned.
This conference is no longer being recorded.
Okay, Wayne.